Hello, I'll be with you in just one sec. There's something I have to do first. You see, to me, a Mustang is supposed to be a two-door sports or muscle car, not an electric crossover like this 2021 Ford Mach-E. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not prejudging this car. In fact, I'm actually pretty curious to see what it's like to drive. It's just, I have an issue with the name. I'm totally fine with calling it the Ford Mach-E. It's just that Mustang part that I have an issue with, which is why I decided to cover the badge. Anyway, let's see what this thing's like to drive. So under the hood of the Ford Mach-E, you will find a trunk, or frunk, as it's more commonly known. Of course, it has electric motor, so there's no need for an engine, and that's why you have so much space under the hood. And the Mach-E is available with 2 or 1 motors, so either rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Power ranges from 266 horsepower all the way up to 480 horsepower with the GT performance. And just like the power, the 0 to 100 km/h time ranges from as slow as 6.2 seconds to as fast as 3.7 seconds with the GT performance. Again, that's dependent on how many electric motors the car has and what kind of battery, either standard range or extended range. This California Route 1 is the slowest at 6.2 seconds. But from a stop or whenever you put your foot down, you still get pushed to the back of your seat. Because of course, electric motors, they give you pretty much all of their torque as soon as you put your foot down. So although it is the slowest, it feels fast. It's a lot of fun. Of course, the faster you go, the slower that rate of acceleration will be. This California Route 1 has a top speed of around 210 kilometers an hour, which is quite a bit slower than a gasoline-powered car with an equivalent amount of power. But 210 kilometers an hour is still more than enough to get you into trouble with the 5.0. As for how much energy the Mach-E uses, it is rated for 2.3 liters equivalent per 100 kilometers combined, or 20.7 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. During my time with it, I averaged 21 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. As I said earlier, it is available with either a 70 kilowatt hour standard range battery or a 91 kilowatt hour extended range battery. The usable energy capacity is 68 kilowatt hours and 88 kilowatt hours respectively. This California Route 1 trim has the latter with a single electric motor. Driving range is rated from as little as 340 kilometers to as much as 491 kilometers as this Route 1 trim is rated for. However, in reality, that driving range is subject to a lot of variables. These include the ambient temperatures, your use of climate controls, your driving style, whether you drive on flat roads or hilly roads, and so on. Because I test drove the Mach-E in the middle of fall with ambient temperatures that barely reached above 10 degrees Celsius, and I live in a part of the world that is surrounded by mountains, the most I ever saw the electric range get up to after a full charge was around 450 kilometers, with that number quickly dropping to around 390 kilometers once the car started to learn my driving habits. But that is still more than enough for daily commutes and errands. To charge the Mach-E, you can do it from a 120 volt wall outlet, but that'll take a few days, so it's not very practical. From a level 2 charger, Ford estimates that it'll provide up to 45 kilometers of range per hour of charging. So you're basically looking at around 12 to 14 hours to recharge fully. From a DC fast charger, Ford estimates that the Mach-E can recharge from 10% to 80% in just 45 minutes. You can also recharge the battery, albeit by a very little amount, by using regen braking. It has 2 modes. The standard mode is like lifting your foot off the throttle pedal in a normal gasoline-powered vehicle. We all know exactly what that's like. The other mode is basically one pedal driving. So all you do is just modulate the accelerator pedal, whether you want to accelerate or you just want to slow down. With the one pedal drive mode, you can actually come to a complete stop. However, you have to judge those distances correctly. Otherwise, you'll end up either 5 meters behind the stoplight or 5 meters before the stoplight, or maybe 10 meters, I don't know. But it is actually pretty easy and very smooth to come to a complete stop. Using the physical brakes, however, is a bit more challenging to arrive at a smooth stop because they are very sensitive. They're very powerful, but they are very sensitive, which makes it difficult to have smooth stops, which is why I prefer actually using the one pedal drive mode. Around corners, the Ford Mach-E drives pretty well. The floor-mounted batteries provide a low center of gravity, which make the Mach-E feel planted not only on highways, but also on winding roads. Of course, it's not going to corner like a sports car because the all-season tires only have a 225 section width and relatively thick sidewalls that allow for a bit more flex. But when you exit out of a corner at full power, the back end will step out of line just a bit before the traction control system steps in and cuts power. So you can actually have quite a bit of fun with the Mach-E. The ride of the Ford Mach-E is not too bad. It is a little bit firmer than I was expecting, but I guess because it has a Mustang badge, it has to be a little bit more sporty. But for everyday use, it's okay. It's not going to break your back. It's plenty comfortable. As for noises, well, it's an electric car, so obviously there is no engine noise. But Ford's engineers did want to have, I guess, a little bit more excitement when you drive. So when you switch it to unbridled drive mode, which is like the sport mode of this vehicle, the speakers will actually pump in a little bit of artificial engine noise. I think that their idea was to have somewhat of a V8 sound, but it just comes off as being a V4 sound. Take a listen. Does that sound like a V8 to you, or more like a really deep tone V4 engine? Let me know in the comments. What does it sound like to you? Apart from that, wind noise is not too bad on the highways, and road noise is a little bit more noticeable at higher speeds, but you don't really need to raise your voice to have a conversation with your passengers. Inside the Ford Mach-E, of course, it looks very different compared to other Ford vehicles, but it still retains some similarities. So for example, on the steering wheel, you still have physical buttons that look like they're from the Ford Escape. You get the same indicator and wiper stalks, the same push button start as you would find in, I don't know, a Ford Escape. As well, the window and lock controls are exactly the same as, again, a Ford Escape. But there are some differences though. For example, the driver display in front of me. It's 10.2 inches diagonally, if I remember correctly, but unfortunately it's not customizable. The other big change is, of course, the gigantic tablet in the center. Because, well, it's a modern electric car, so it must have one. Thank you very much, Tesla. Sarcasm, by the way, in case you're wondering. I really hate having to dig through the infotainment system to change the climate controls, for example. I mean, this lower portion right here, they did give you a physical volume knob, but why can't they just make physical buttons for the climate? That's all that I ask. Instead, they're all part of the infotainment system. But the screen itself is very responsive and the graphics on it are crisp and clear. It is running on Sync 4, but because of the orientation, it kind of looks different. So all the menus and the sub-menus are positioned differently than you would find in, say, the Ford F-150 and that Sync 4 system. It does take a little bit of getting used to, but after a while of fooling around with it and touching all the buttons, you get used to it. Other unique touches to the Mach-E include the door release mechanisms. Pull the little lever and the door opens for you. On the outside, it's a little button that you press to open the door. Other than that, in the Mach-E, you have wireless phone charging and quite a lot of space. So 2 cup holders here, some storage up here, more storage underneath. Lift up the armrest and you have more storage down here. And of course, on the door panels, more storage. So overall, you have plenty of space for small items. As for space for yourself, I'm 6'4" and I have plenty of legroom, plenty of headroom. Oh, and by the way, this moonroof, it doesn't open, and unfortunately there is no shade, but it is tinted, so in the summer it should do a good enough job of blocking out the sunlight, I think. Right now it's middle of fall and it's just constant rain. The rear seats actually have more legroom than both the Tesla Model Y and the Jaguar I-Pace. Sitting behind my driving position, my knees are pinned against the back of the front seat, but they don't feel squished. More average-sized adults will have plenty of space in the back. As for the trunk, it can accommodate 840 liters of space with the rear seats up. Fold them down and that number increases to 1,690 liters. Of course, it also has that frunk for a little bit of extra storage. It has a divider that can be removed, not easily however, and it is waterproof. The frunk has a capacity of 133 liters. Interestingly, this frunk has 3 more liters of space than the Mazda MX-5's trunk. The 2021 Ford Mach-E starts at $50,495 Canadian, with this California Route 1 trim costing $64,495 Canadian. A fully loaded GT Performance Edition will cost you $88,235 Canadian. To offset the cost, the Mach-E is eligible for government rebates and tax credits. Check your local dealer for details. This California Route 1 trim is supposed to be a mid-level trim, however, it doesn't come equipped like one. Essentially, you're paying almost $65,000 Canadian for the almost 500 kilometers range instead of interior features. For example, it's not available with heated seats or a heated steering wheel. It's not available with a power liftgate either, nor driver's memory seat. These options are standard on the less expensive premium trim and optional on the base select trim, but not available at all on this California Route 1 trim. However, the Mach-E still has some key features that most customers want. Wireless phone charging, wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, surround view cameras, which, by the way, Ford had a lot of real estate with that screen, and yet you need a magnifying glass to see the area around the car with those surround view cameras. Other features include adaptive cruise control, lane centering. There's also automatic emergency braking, blind spot sensors, satellite navigation, and LED headlights. All of these are standard features on this California Route 1 trim. As for warranty, the Mach-E comes with a 3-year, 60,000 kilometer new vehicle basic warranty and an 8-year, 160,000 kilometer battery and electric component warranty. There is a caveat for that last one though, because it's only covered if the battery retains a minimum of 70% of its original capacity over that 8-year or 160,000 kilometer period, whichever comes first. So in the end, I think Ford did a really good job with the new Mach-E. It's not perfect by any means, but as their first purpose-built, mass-produced all-electric vehicle, I think it's great. I'm still not sold on the name though. I wish that they would just drop the whole Mustang thing and just call it the Ford Mach-E, but that's just a personal opinion of mine. If you want to know more about this 2021 Ford Mach-E, I wrote a more detailed review of it over on my website. You can find that link in the video description. And as always, I will see you in the next car or truck or most likely another SUV. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.